Hi everyone, Sherry Osborne, the Osborne Ranch Soap Company here. Today I am making a goat milk soap, and this is going to be fragranced with a tropical fragrance that we use for some of our lotions. I've already measured out my goat milk and it's previously been frozen, and I do like to chop it up a little bit so it's not just in big ice cubes, but I freeze it in ice cube trays and then chop it a little smaller. So this is whole raw local goat milk that we get from a local goat farmer, and I have already measured out my oils and I've actually popped them in the microwave and have heated them up a little bit. I like to try to soap goat milk around 90 to 100 degrees. So my oils I've heated up and I heated to 102. The oil that I'm using is my standard mix for my olive oil soaps. It's a mix of olive oil, coconut oil, and castor oil. And I've already measured out my fragrance oil and it's ready to go. So what I'm gonna do is measure out my lye and go mix up my lye and goat milk solution, which that takes a little while because the goat milk is frozen and it has to melt, so it's a little bit of a process. So I'm not going to film the whole process of mixing the lye into the goat milk. And when I get that all mixed up, and then we'll come back and we'll start combining and making our goat milk soap. Okay, so I'm back and my lye goat milk solution is all mixed up, and you really want to make sure the temperature does not go above 90 is what I like to keep it below. You don't want your milk to scorch. If you scorch your milk, it will not make very good soap. It'll smell super bad. It'll be super yellow, discolored. And what I like to do is an ice bath to help keep the temperature down. So I do put my solution in an ice bath and keep the temperature down. So now we're gonna combine our lye goat milk mix with our oils, and I like to pour it in very slowly. You don't want any of the lye solution splashing up on you. That would be a very bad mistake. It would burn very bad. It's very caustic. Okay, so we want to make sure we get it all in there. I like to stir slowly as I pour it in. That helps start it combining. Okay, and then I'll just take my container and just rinse it out real quickly. Get down the drain. And then just put a little water in it. Okay, so one thing I didn't tell you earlier is when you're making soap, you want to make sure you have plenty of protection on. You want eye protection, which I have on, and you want gloves and an apron. Closed-toed shoes are good to wear. I am not wearing a long sleeve shirt, but you should wear a long sleeve shirt and long pants to help protect your arms also. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get this going. We want to stick blend it. I've got my stick blender, and what I did was I kind of shook it around to make sure there's no air bubbles in it. So we're gonna pulsate the stick blender and get this all mixed together. Sometimes it takes a little longer for your soap to get to trace when you're soaping at such a low temperature. My oils had actually cooled down to around 92 and my lye solution was at 85. So now it's just a process of getting it to trace. We want to get it to light trace before we pour our fragrance in, and then we'll stir in our fragrance. This is probably one of the simplest goat milk recipes. As far as I don't have a lot of additives in here. I like to do my goat milk soaps very natural. I don't like to put a lot of additives or colorants in them. I have a lot of people that really enjoy the goat milk soap. It makes a creamier lather. Also a lot of nutrition found in goat's milk. And as you know, everything you put on your skin absorbs in your skin within a matter of seconds. Your skin is actually your largest organ in your body, and it protects the body. Okay, so we're just going to check this. It looks like it's just about getting to trace. And this is going to be our goat milk tropical fragrance. And I've already prepared my molds as well. I've got a big loaf mold, which you can't see right now. It's out of the camera frame. And then I have a smaller mold because this recipe actually makes a little more soap than what will go in the mold. Okay, so we're at trace. I don't know if you can see that or not, but trace is when you kind of take your spatula out and you see a little bit of trace of the soap batter on top. So I am going to go ahead and put in my fragrance oil. Try to get all of that in there. And then I'm going to stir it in first, and then I will go ahead and stick blend it again. I try to get it incorporated pretty good before I start stick blending again. I want it all incorporated really well throughout the whole batter. And we were at a light trace, and I don't want this to get to a thick or a heavy trace too fast before I get all of the fragrance stirred in. So I'll go ahead and use this spatula to go ahead and get it stirred in and incorporated pretty good, and then I'll go ahead and use a stick blender to finish it up. Oh, it smells really good. Tropical fragrance. Kind of smells like Hawaiian tropic. It's real beachy smelling. It smells really good. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and I like to take the motor part off the stick blender when I'm adding things. If you leave it on and set it like this, it can flip over and cause the batter to come out or splatter up on you. So I like to take it apart, and that way I don't have to take the shaft of the stick blender out and then, you know, re-burp it to get the air out. I just let it sit right there in my bowl. And we are getting at a good medium thick trace here. So this is, I don't know if you can see that, but this is really ready to pour. Just going to incorporate it a tiny bit more. This is just beautiful. It's so creamy. The goat milk makes just such a creamy, beautiful soap. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and get my stick blender out of here so I can pour. And since I already know that this recipe overfills my log mold, I will go ahead and do my small mold first. I know it'll be enough to put in 3 compartments of the small mold, and then it'll fill up the log mold. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. All right, so that's so nice. Beautiful batters. Okay, so this is my smaller mold, and I'm going to go ahead and pour 3 compartments in here. I'm going to try not to overfill them. I do put a little plastic, it's like a cutting board underneath, and that's just so that it'll hold a little steadier. These little molds are a little bit flimsy. So they're, when you pick them up to, see, when you pick them up how they kind of bend, pick them up to tap them down. Okay, so that's all tapped down, and I'm going to go ahead and get my log mold. Okay. And it's actually getting a little thick, so I need to pour it a little quickly. And this is just a beautiful soap. So after I get this all poured and tap it down, sometimes I do an interesting pattern on the top. This one I think I'm just going to leave a little bit plain. But what I like to do is I spray these down. I spritz the top of all of my soaps down with 99% alcohol. And that helps keep the soda ash from coming out on them, which doesn't really hurt a thing. It's just not real pretty. You know, the soap is nicer if it's got a nice kind of a clear tone. I think it's more appealing than if you have this soda ash that comes out and it's all kind of chalky and dusty looking. Okay, so I have got all of my soap in the mold. I'm just gonna wash my hands off a second before I handle the mold. Since I scraped that batter down with my gloves. All right, then I'm gonna tap this down. This helps make sure there's no air bubbles in it. And that's also another reason I didn't lift my stick blender out, because I didn't want to get air bubbles or air pockets in it. Okay. One thing that I do like to do, and I'll show you before we end the video, see how you get all that soap batter inside there instead of sticking your fingers under that blade and cleaning that out? What I like to do is soak it in a little bit of water, and I will put some dish liquid in there. And then when that gets full enough, I reattach my motor to my stick part of the shaft part of my stick blender, and I'll turn it on and run it through that water, and that will clean that inside of that out. And I won't have to stick my finger up in there around the blades. Okay, so I have my 99% alcohol. I'm going to go ahead and spritz the top of this down. And milk soap, unlike our regular soap that we make with the water, we don't want it to go through the gel process. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pop this big one in the freezer just because I have a giant wood mold on it. And my smaller one I'll stick in the refrigerator. But I'm going to pop this big one in the freezer for a couple hours or so. And then I'll take it out and put it in the refrigerator. We don't want it to go through that gel phase. Okay, so see, I just take my stick blender, just run it in that soapy water, and that will actually clean out all of that soap that's inside it. It's got a tiny bit more in there, but you can do that a couple of times, and it cleans it really, really nice. There we go. See, that's all nice and clean. Now I'm going to stick that back down in there, and I'll wash off the outside. But there you go. That's our goat milk tropical soap. Thank you very much for watching. Hope everybody has a wonderful day.